Got the nation talking about the immigration issue, and now a gentleman in Painesville has Northeast Ohio talking about it after being arrested in connection with a case involving an attempted rape and a murder. This is the Opinion Show, where we talk about issues of the day with the editorial board of the Plain Dealer and the Northeast Ohio Media Group. I'm here with Betsy Sullivan, the opinion director, Kevin O'Brien, the deputy editorial page editor and columnist, and two editorial writers, Ted Dieden and Chris Evans. We're talking today about an undocumented immigrant in Lake County who has been placed in jail and could be deported after having been arrested in the death and attempted rape of multiple people, right? So he was stopped by police a few weeks before these crimes and was not detained per federal policy on dealing with immigrants that have not gotten into trouble. This has raised the discussion again about people who are in this country illegally and how we should deal with them. And I am sure there is a difference of opinion on this board about how we should deal with that. So, Betsy, I'm going to turn to you to start that discussion.
All right. Well, I think it's important just to note that we don't really know what motivated this guy to carry out this crime spree earlier this week. He'd been apparently living in Lake County, where he has relatives, peacefully for 5 years, had never been in trouble with the law, and that evidently is the underpinning for why the Immigration and Customs Enforcement didn't want him when the
and he hasn't even been charged in the homicide or the attempted rape. He's been charged he's got one charge of attempted.
Right,
attempted
because
murder.
I believe that victim who was shot in the arm as she walked with her daughters actually saw him. But it does appear that this all started with an attempted rape of a 14-year-old girl in the morning, and a major search was launched for him as a result of that. She knew him and identified him. A major search was launched for him. They couldn't locate him, and then they got the report of the shooting. Somehow in the interim he had obtained a rifle and was shooting, and he is suspected in the killing of the woman in her home. And he was arrested apparently after he showed up in somebody's backyard and was pointing his weapon at their son.
And then fired at police when they came to get him. Yes.
But then, so something happened. It almost sounds to me like he wigged out over something. But, you know, again, he was here illegally without documentation. It does underscore the confusing matrix of what we do with the tolerance policies that the president has unveiled. And, you know, he is an example of an immigrant who is not, you know, contributing to society, who is, you know, an apparent criminal. But does that, you know, undercut the whole policy? That's the question.
Yeah, see, I don't think it's tolerance. I mean, I think what Obama's done by prioritizing enforcement is he's being smart. There's something like over 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Congress is setting aside money to deport like 400,000. So you can't have a blanket policy where you pick up undocumented immigrants and you deport them because the money isn't there to do that. And I think he's right to prioritize people who have been identified as known threats. When they stopped this guy on July 7th, they had no idea that in 2 weeks he was going to wig out. So
let me ask you something though. If I stop you, if I'm from a police officer and I stop you for anything and find that you've broken any law while I've stopped you, I arrest you. Right. But I stop you and you're violating the immigration law and I let you go. What other law is there that I would let you go without the arrest?
Well, I think they called, you know, I mean, they called ICE or whatever it's going by this week, and they were told, you know, let them go.
But we've created a situation where there is one law that you can break and not get arrested for when police catch you breaking that law. That's an unusual situation.
It is.
I'm not confused at all by this. I just think the whole thing is outrageous. Until we summon the political will to protect the people of this country, these things are going to happen over and over again. That woman out in San Francisco, Kate Steinle, basically her life was traded for the feel-good notion of San Francisco as a sanctuary city. That's what it was. The guy had no reason to be there. They let him go, and you know, she died as a result. This woman in Painesville, Margaret Pekosik, worked for the city of Willoughby, was, you know, solved problems, was a wonderful person. We don't, you know, that it's only alleged, pardon? Okay, I'm sorry, Castelnick. And allegedly, we have to say now, it was a victim of this guy who was caught and should have been put in jail and deported then, not now after he's murdered somebody, allegedly murdered somebody.
Although we don't know, you know, there was no indication. I guess he was parked somewhere where he shouldn't have been parked.
Apparently he was parked in a golf course.
Why do we care? The guy was in the country illegally. He shouldn't have been here. Get him down there and let him, you know,
But
create
Ted,
mayhem
you're talking
in
about
Mexico.
over 11 million people.
Okay,
I
this
mean,
is one.
jail capacity and the cost of deporting them is astronomical.
Well,
And
many of them are here contributing to our economy, contributing to our society. I mean, the reason they're up in Painesville is it's growing season. There are all sorts of crops to pick and to tend to, and these are the folks that are willing to take those jobs.
I would
terrorize.
indict our federal lawmakers who cannot seem to come to an agreement on, you know, common sense reform of immigration law, that everybody from the, you know, agricultural interests, major labor interests to business interests has, you know, come together and supports. And you know, John Boehner in an unguarded moment last summer said, oh gosh, I can't, you know, get my people to agree to this. That's the underlying problem. Now the San Francisco case, I looked at that. That was a case where this guy has repeat felony convictions for minor drug offenses and for illegal entry as a felony. But that appears to have been, if you dig down into it, a failure of, you know, the intersection of the federal policy with San Francisco's sanctuary policy. San Francisco said if they'd had a warrant from the feds, they wouldn't have released him.
Well, you've got so many people making exceptions to the laws that are on the books. How does anybody know what to do? You're going to have so many intersections of exceptions that I don't know how anybody enforces the law. The law says what it says. We're building all these cutouts in the executive branch of the United States government that says, well, for this class of 1 million plus people, we're just not going to bother with the law. That's wrong. That's not what those people are there for. And you can indict the lawmakers all day long for not passing reforms, but until they do, let's indict the executive branch for not enforcing the law as it stands.
Or I would say for not creating greater clarity about what the current policy is, so that you know,
well, it's pretty clear in this case. They called the Border Patrol and said, should we run this guy in? And they said, no, let him go.
Right.
That's pretty
So
clear.
we're worried about the rights of this guy and the guy in San Francisco, and Kate Steinle and Margaret Castelnick are dead. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, but there was no way to anticipate that. You know, I mean, you can't say every time you come across an undocumented immigrant that they are going to go out and kill, rape, or murder.
You pretty much have to wait until they do something heinous. Then you can do something.
And you just said
this is not a good argument, Chris.
You're saying we're worried about the rights of
Well, you have to do
this
that with
guy. And
Americans.
I think the rights, it's not about the rights. It's about what is the right thing to do. There are a bunch of people in this country, they've been here for years, and there's a big debate about what's the best path. Do you bring them a path to citizenship? Do you bring them a path to get here, make it more difficult than those who have done it through the law? I don't think they let him go saying, oh, he has a right to be here. They let him go because we have this big national problem with millions of people who are here contributing to the society, and people are trying to figure out a way to make this work. He had done nothing in his 5 years here that would have given you any sign that he was a dangerous man.
Yeah.
Right. And we still don't know where he got the rifle. I mean, there's just a lot of questions.
But what
And
difference
Margaret
does it
Castelnick
make?
is dead, and he's alive, and he was not. They didn't deal with him like they should have, and yeah, I know.
And he shouldn't have been here in the
yeah,
first place.
I know I'm going to start sounding like Donald Trump.
I was going to say, yeah,
but,
yeah.
But I'm telling you, that we have to summon the will to deal more harshly with lawbreakers in this country. And it includes a lot of people, but certainly illegal immigrants are.
So all 11 million, you would start rounding them up and sending them home.
That'd be all right with me.
But Ted, you know, on the other hand, you have like big ag, and you have a lot of big industry people. They want these immigrants in here to do work that Americans won't do for the pay. And so the ones who, the majority are providing a valuable service to industry.
I actually reject that notion too, that Americans won't do for the pay. Then
Right.
if they can't get Americans to do it, then the pay is not large enough, and they have to pay more, and we'll pay more. The point is not that, you know, that, I just think that we would start by just, you know, just everybody we find who's here illegally, away they go.
You've got to work it at both ends. If you catch somebody who's in the country illegally, out they go. They shouldn't be here. The law says what it says. Goodbye. If you catch somebody at the other end who's providing jobs, essentially low-wage, practically slave labor for these people who come across the border, you crack down on them. You send them to jail. You shut them down. You do whatever it takes. The jobs dry up. The people go home. It's like night follows day.
There is a fallacy, though, that was reflected in Donald Trump's comments, that the majority of these quote-unquote lawbreakers are threats to society. In fact, it's just the reverse. Most of them are contributing members of society. They actually pay into Social Security, even though they'll never see the benefit of it, as long as they
Just
remain
like us.
Undocumented. But you know, they've been here for decades. They've done nothing wrong. They have family.
Oh, they did something wrong.
Okay. They've
Yes.
done nothing wrong since they got here. And they were motivated by the same factors, Kevin, that motivated our ancestors, which is economic security and, you know, a better
Safety,
life
they're
for
fleeing,
their
yeah.
children and descendants. That's all that's motivating
Following the
them.
rules is part of that.
It is very different from the other threat we face, which, you know, we've had reminders of domestic terrorism, where, you know, this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who came here for economic reasons, have been productive and, you know, good citizens, other than the fact they are citizens.
Other than the fact that he tried to rape his, you know, his 14.
Well, we're not going to, you know, go into that. But, I mean, he tried to rape a 14-year-old girl. But, yeah, you know, this guy's going to be prosecuted for his crimes, and he's going to serve time, or he's going to be deported if he's found guilty. You know, that is the way it should work.
If he had been deported for his initial crime, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
But what I'm trying
And what
to,
Donald Trump
yeah.
says about Mexicans is off the wall, all right? So take it off the table. That's his opinion. I don't think that's the opinion of anybody sitting here. I don't think that's the opinion of anyone who has thought this through. You don't classify a broad section of an ethnic group as criminal, because we all know that's not true. But the fact that they're here and here illegally is a problem that needs to be solved.
On the other hand, you know, I do a lot of family history. I know many of the members of my family tree were here initially as not citizens, and then they became naturalized citizens.
What did the laws say at that point, though? They were welcome as non-citizens.
I'm not so sure.
Okay, well, as I predicted, a wide spectrum of opinions on this issue. We'd like to know what you think of it. Please leave your thoughts in the comments where you find this show.